So not that long ago, I actually talked about Cold War and things I really enjoyed and things I wasn't really a huge fan of. On me and my verdict, I simply said that I had a lot of fun with the game, but it wasn't for everyone. But I have actually put more time into it, actually almost twice the amount of time. I'm now level 42, which still isn't that high, and I've put a lot more time into other weapons, and mostly seen a lot of what the multiplayer has to offer. I have only not played Fireteam Dirty Bomb, and I've seen that, so I can kind of form a semi-opinion on it. And I've actually kind of realized that there are a ton of things that I didn't talk about in the previous video that I fucking despise about Cold War, and generally things that I'm not a big fan of, and this is my kind of rant about it. Now, before we actually talk about everything I don't like about it, I do want to say that I've put a lot of time into it, and I'm really hoping that a lot of these things can be improved over time, and I'm hoping that they are, and I think that they will be, hopefully, but I'm just hoping that they don't end up getting worse as they go on. But I could see one of these, that being the biggest issue, which I'm actually going to get to first, probably staying. You want to know what my biggest problem with Cold War, and this has honestly probably been the biggest problem for everyone else? Skill-based matchmaking. This game, I'm actually going to be bold in saying that as I've played the game more and more, Cold War has to have the worst matchmaking, or the worst case of skill-based matchmaking in any Call of Duty game to date. It's worse than Modern Warfare, at least for me, and I literally get put up with the game of sweats, and I will just straight up leave the game. I have left more games in Cold War than I have in almost any other Call of Duty game, and that's with me only having the game for a week. That's kind of impressive. Keep in mind, even with that, I still have more wins than losses, with my win-loss ratio being 1.6, but holy shit is skill-based matchmaking annoying. The amount of sweats that are in this game, I cannot understate how annoyingly aggravating sometimes this game can be. You'll get a game once in a while where you and the team are fair level, and sometimes you're better than the other team, and it's really fun. But those fun times are few and far between the amount of raging games I've had of sweaty-ass players. And there are other things I also want to talk about as well that honestly kind of make the game a lot of aggravation and cause me a ton of aggravation. The second biggest issue is weapon balancing, and what the fuck? This game's weapon balancing I actually thought wasn't terrible, but as I've played the game more, they've made it a lot worse, and at least they've tried overhauling some of the things, and to be fair, the MP5 was actually nerfed a lot, which is nice, but honestly for me, the gun I find overpowered, and this might just be my opinion, that or the gun is just really good, is the M16. It seems too powerful, and that's with someone who has mained the M16 since the game has came out, and it is my most used gun for elims, and I could say with full certainty that the gun itself could use a huge nerf. And at least that's what they have done with a lot of the guns, with a huge patch being made today with them nerfing a ton of the guns. The M16, MP5 were both nerfed, the FAMAS, all of them have been nerfed, and wow, I'm not that surprised, and in a way, I'm very glad that they nerfed a lot of these guns, considering how broken that a lot of them are, and overall, there's a ton of guns I don't see myself using. That being said, though, the weapon balance themselves, on a fair level, is still, I'd say, even, almost. There are a couple guns that are really low, but weapon balancing is still kind of a mess, but the game has just came out, to be fair, and generally, the weapon balance isn't the worst we've ever seen, but it's not great either, and I would say that's definitely really, really, really bad in a lot of ways. I actually talked about how I really enjoy the progression of the game, and I do. But there's another thing I really do not like about the weapon progression. The weapon progression itself feels too slow, and I may be in the minority, but I have never gotten a gun to a really high level, and maybe it's just me, but Modern Warfare had a ton of attachments, more so than this game, and I've probably been able to level up my weapons way faster in that game than I have in this game. And that's what, honestly, for me, almost feels like me putting more time into this game in a short amount of time. It is kind of annoying to level up weapons, and while it's not that bad and it's not slow, it's not as bad as it was in the beta, I wouldn't mind weapon progression being sped up, because it feels a little too slow. And the sights themselves, I actually saw this, someone else pointed out, the sights themselves are weak as fuck. There's really only a couple of sights I would actually recommend using, and besides that, you know, the sights themselves are incredibly mediocre. There's a lot of them, and there's a lot of reused ones, and there's a lot of ones that are god-awful. A lot of the sights of this game are just they're no-goes, and that's kind of an issue when half of what you're going to unlock is sites. With Modern Warfare, at least the sites you unlocked, a lot of them, while similar, they were, I'd say, equal in a lot of ways, and there were a lot more useful sites in that game than there were in this game, and that's quite a big problem, like I said. A very big problem. I also have tried out all of the maps in full. I've actually invested in Ground Team, or Ground War, and I actually had a lot of fun playing it. In a lot of ways, I've actually had more fun playing Ground War than I have in 6v6 because the lobbies tend to be a lot less sweaty, at least in my experience. I haven't played it as much, but I tend to really enjoy it. But the maps that are I've since seen every map in the game and played a lot of them extensively, and I could say that the map selection in this game it's not as bad as Modern Warfare, like I pointed out, but I've since kind of seen a lot of the pain that the maps have caused. The maps themselves are incredibly mediocre, and there's not a single standout map. For 6v6, I'll say that Satellite was probably my favorite, and for the for the Ground War, it had to have been Cartel, but the maps themselves are incredibly mediocre across the board. Crossroads is fun with the 6v6 variant, but the pathfinding for the Chopper Gunner, or whatever that is terrible. It is awful. And I will say that I have my favorite map, and I have my least favorite map, but they all kind of blur together to me. My least favorite map, personally, it's Miami. I liked it in the beta, but it's just not a good map for me. But I can see people enjoying it, and I haven't played it as much. But honestly, the map selection in this game is not great either. And while Nuketown is coming out in 4 days, you know, I'm kind of glad that it is, but, you know, it's not that bad. Now, let me talk about my other biggest problem, and this was my biggest problem with Modern Warfare. Personally, and I could see this not being an issue for tons of my friends. It wasn't, but it was a single issue for me. The optimization. I have actually played more of Cold War, and since then, I've seen much more crashes. My game has crashed maybe 10 times in total. That is more than I should ever have to deal with. Modern Warfare did not work at all. But when it finally was working, it did not crash. And I've seen so many crashes inside of this game. A lot more than I would like to admit. And look, I get a game is not going to be optimized day one, but I really hate the optimization in this game. It's not terrible. It could be worse, and considering that the game has came out only a week ago, exactly a week ago from today, it's not as bad as it could be, but it's still not good. It's still pretty abysmal for a COD game. And there's a lot of graphical glitches I've since seen, which I will admit is more attributed to my computer and my hardware, much less the game itself, as the VRAM on my card is abysmally low. But I shouldn't have to deal with crashes all the time. That is kind of BS, and I really hope that they fix a lot of the game, which is weird because they came out with a patch today which was just updating the guns, but there was little to no optimization added to the game, and some of the glitches were completely untapped in the patch. And the patch itself was 5 gigabytes on PC. I mean, on Xbox it was like 15 apparently. I should not have to worry about that. That is kind of bad. Now, I actually also forgot to mention another system, and that's the kill streaks being completely different, which was weird. I actually talked about it in my old video about Cold War. And the kill streaks in this game, or sorry, score streaks, they're fun, and I would say that they're really solid to use, but the system is novelty, and it's cool, but it's definitely hit or miss for me. At times I enjoy it, but at other times it's definitely But I can't actually see the appeal of a system like this being put in place. Considering that I get much less kills in a row in this game than I have in any other game, I'm not that offended by the fact that, you know, the kill streaks themselves are a lot less and cost less points. Considering that the higher time to kill can compensate. But honestly, the kill streaks and score streaks, the system itself I hated at first, but I've actually kind of grown to like it. That being said though, it's not, I enjoy the rush of adrenaline of, I can't die, I cannot die, and it's kind of sad that that adrenaline rush that existed is no longer existent here. I wish it was, but, I mean, that's what you get for ease of access. Now, I will say, going back to optimization, even though I just finished that, I will say that the game, I do like that it doesn't take up half my hard drive. but that is simply a PC thing. On Xbox, yeah, it takes up a lot. And on PS5, yeah, it takes up a lot. But on PC, the multiplayer in Zombies alone only takes up around 50 gigabytes, which is not terrible. It's actually what average, only a couple years ago was. So, at least for me, it's not that big of an issue. And at least they have that set up. That being said, though, apparently it is much more on the other consoles. And so, I cannot really, yeah, it's still a lot on the consoles, so, you know. Look, I know that this video has kind of been me blabbling on about tons of different things I really don't like about the game, but, truthfully, this has probably been the game I've had the most fun in the Call of Duty franchise in a long time. I do not fully expect to purchase this game, but since we're in quarantine, I've been stuck in my room, I have actually purchased it, and I've had a ton of fun playing Cold War. I've had a fun time grinding it. In fact, it's possible that this could be the game I prestige the earliest in any game in the COD franchise. And in general, I've had a ton of fun with this game. The zombies is unique. The multiplayer itself, for me, is fun, albeit very, very, very safe. And I've had a lot of fun with the game. That being said, though, I really want to see tons of things change. The skill-based matchmaking needs to be reduced heavily, and honestly, if that doesn't get changed, I could see myself not playing the game at all. That's the biggest problem, and I really, really, really am not alone with that opinion. But I haven't had much fun in a COD game since a while, and what the fuck was that grammar? Hold on, what the fuck? What I was trying to say is, truthfully, I haven't had this much fun in a COD game since something like Black Ops 3, but the game itself is not perfect, and I could see myself leaving if they don't change a lot of the systems. And, you know, for what it's worth, I've had a really fun time playing this game. And while, yeah, we're gonna have to worry about the microtransactions and DLC later on, that could be painful, albeit it wasn't as bad in Modern Warfare. I will say that a lot of the mechanics about the game really need to be overhauled. The glitches need to be fixed. The optimization on PC really needs to be fixed. And I hope a lot of it is fixed with Season 1. And Season 1 really needs to bring on more content, considering that I also forgot to mention that the content in this game is so low for the multiplayer. There's really not a lot of stuff here. But I'm lucky that the stuff here has been great and the gunplay is excellent and honestly probably my favorite in the entire series. At least how I've felt about it right now. But anyways, if you've enjoyed me ranting and being retard about COD for the past maybe 20 minutes, not 20, like 13, please hit the like button and subscribe, and I will really, really be happy. And I promise, I've brought this up every video, Among Us Part 4 will come soon. I really need to get on that video. Anyways, see you guys in the next video.